Hey, welcome back to Cheating Wife, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to the channel for cheating stories like this.
My 33 male wife, 32 female, said her ex's name while we were having. My wife and I have been married for 4 years and have a 2-year-old child. Before getting married, we dated on and off for 3 years. Last night, as we were having, she mentioned her ex's name. She offered some strange explanation for why. She said that it is a common name, it is a pretty popular name, and that she must have heard it recently. I wasn't about to start a major fight with her at that point. It has subsequently made me concerned as to why she did it. For some context, this was a man she had been seeing for a few years before I met her. They met in college and were in a committed relationship for a while. When I met her, they had split up and thought they would be better off as friends. They had been friends for years before they started dating. We began dating, but he stayed in the picture. He was her closest friend first and foremost, and I unwillingly agreed to it for her sake. After a few months, I put my foot down, stating that it is too unpleasant for me. There was some pushback, but she took a step back from him. She was with him every time we split up. We eventually reconciled and were married. He evidently didn't realize this and abruptly quits speaking to her. She was distraught, which should have been a warning sign. We chatted about it, and she was pleased that she had picked me. Now that this has occurred, I'm inclined to check to see whether she has reconnected with him. I know she checked in on his social media, since I saw the laptop searches. She has no idea that I am aware of this. I don't believe she'd cheat, but this man was always out of the ordinary for her. Do I just confront her? Do I begin looking through her phone? Is it just me, or am I being paranoid? Update. Thank you everyone for your assistance and suggestions. Before chatting to her, I performed some research. I initially looked through his social media, but nothing overtly said anything was going on. Some others said his love in their remarks, although it might mean anything. I did check the phone bill, and there seemed to be frequent calls with him. I was able to access her phone when she was sleeping. She must have forgotten I knew the secret. Nothing in messages and no strange phone calls. As a result, she erased them. I did discover several applications she attempted to keep hidden, such as Snapchat and Kik. There they are, having their discussions, and there are photographs. I took photographs of everything on my phone as evidence. She burst when we had the chat and ran away with our kid to her mother's house. I called a lawyer and am now in the process of divorcing and determining custody. I'm sad and enraged more than anything else. I'm angry with her, but I'm also mad at myself for ignoring so many warning signals. The chats I discovered confirmed that they were having an affair. They were trading images, some of which were naked. Story 2. Found my husband and little sister in bed together. My spouse, 22 female, and I had what I believed was the most fantastic, healthy, and happy marriage. We've been together for a little more than 2 years, but we've known each other for 7. We first met in high school, but I've never dated. I have a little boy whose biological father is a deadbeat. My husband took over and has been his father since he was 4 months old. My kid and family admire my spouse. He reminds everyone of my father, who died unexpectedly of a heart attack 4 years ago, on the floor of our living room. My family and hubby were quite close in a short period of time. My husband and I began trying for a child a few months after we began dating. However, we did not conceive our kid until 15 months after we began trying. Dealing with infertility was really difficult on my mental health. After the 7th negative pregnancy test in a row, I spent a lot of time weeping in my husband's chest. When we found out I was pregnant with our second son in November, we were overjoyed. The global scenario occurred, which put a damper on my pregnancy. As a result, I often invited my younger sister, 18F, to our apartment to keep me company while my husband worked long hours, owing to the worldwide crisis. My 4 siblings and I are all quite close, but my youngest sister and I are by far the closest of all our siblings. I practically raised her after my mother abandoned us 2 months after our father died to go live with her lover. Would do anything for her at the drop of a hat and would always protect her and be on her side. My spouse decided to relax and have a drink for the first time in over a year one Saturday in April. My younger sister was visiting, so I went out and purchased some wine for her to drink so they could have fun drinking together, because I was pregnant and couldn't drink with him. When we were all playing video games and watching movies, I went to bed since it was becoming late, and I was exhausted. When I awoke about 1 a.m. and didn't see my spouse in bed next to me, I went up to check whether he was still playing video games. I didn't even bother putting on my spectacles. When I came out to the living room, I noticed him standing hunched over her while she was resting on the sofa, in my severely fuzzy eyesight. They were both dressed, but I felt very nervous and sick in my stomach. When I questioned what they were doing, my husband said that he was chatting to her. I returned to the restroom and began weeping, but I dismissed it as stupid and hormonal, and tried to put it to the back of my mind. Only I couldn't because the recollection was consuming my every thought and driving me nuts. But I didn't have any evidence, and I didn't witness them doing anything, so I simply convinced myself that I was crazy and that they would never do anything like that to me, particularly when I was significantly pregnant. My spouse began to grow more distant and downright rude to me. Always seems to find things to argue about with me. I'm not getting any attention, love. It was very out of character for him. I dismissed it as him being concerned about the new baby. My husband and I purchased our first house in May, and I wanted to paint all of our rooms before we moved in. My husband agreed, and my sister volunteered to assist him. Fast forward to July, after 3 months of feeling that something wasn't right and that my marriage was in trouble. I awoke one Monday morning, 9 months pregnant, to an empty bed and no sign of my spouse. My younger sister had stayed the night. I put on my lenses and walked into the living room to check whether he was up and playing with the new cat we had acquired the night before. My stomach fell when there was no trace of him. The door to my unborn child's nursery, where my younger sister was sleeping, was open. My heart plummeted and my feet felt like cement blocks, yet I began going slowly towards the chamber, only to find my husband on his knees in our unborn son's nursery, administering oral to my baby sister. I knew it. "Get out of my home," were the first words out of my lips. I'll never forget the expressions on their faces. I was devastated and terrified. I rushed to our master bathroom and simply stood there stunned. When my husband walked in and attempted to speak to me, I threw everything within reach at him and ordered him to leave me alone. I pushed past him because he didn't. The rest of it is a haze, and I don't recall much of it. Except for concealing his keys so he could drive her back to my mother's place, he ended up doing so anyways. I'm still humiliated and crushed, but I can't bring myself to leave him, no matter how disgusted, hurt, and devastated I am. I'd only spoken to my sister a few times, trying to figure out how she could do such a thing to me of all people. They didn't have an answer, and they had practically every time she came over while I was sleeping. I have no desire or need to be in a relationship with my sister. I honestly believe she owes me more devotion than anybody else on the globe. How can I recover from the ultimate betrayal by the two people I care about the most? Edit. Just to clarify up any misunderstandings. My spouse did not groom her or exploit her. She has said that it was entirely voluntary. Both my husband and her have said that there were no romantic sentiments involved. It's all about them. I should also mention that my younger sister has a long history of sleeping with mature guys. But I never imagined she'd go so far as to sleep with my husband. By stating this, I'm not taking any of the pressure off of him. Currently, a guy, 27, is in jail for having with her in the back of his vehicle when she was 15 years old. Also, the dude's name was the same as our elder brother's. She simply has significant problems. I discovered she'd been using my when I was at work a few years ago. She's insane and has boundaries problems. Clearly creeped me out, so I tossed them away. But once again, I had no idea she'd attempt to destabilize my marriage or connection with me. She also has a very special place in my son's heart. I'm not sure why she'd risk damaging it. To be honest, I'm perplexed.